there's one thing our professors do say every time, that medical is like very, very practical oriented. Each word which is written in the textbook is actually applicable to a human being, right? There's nothing which you cannot feel that this is why am I studying this?
Right.
Why is it relevant?
This is completely about human body.
Yeah, every medical student over the last 3 months has felt a lot of insecurity. Insecurity of their profession, insecurity of their gender, and other things as well. There was an incident which happened in Tala, right, the Ajikor, where the whole mob was there. So our students in our hostel felt very insecure. They were feeling that what if the same thing happens in our college? So in 1 hour, our director and our MSVP sir, they came down from their residence, from their home to our hostel and stayed for 3 to 4 hours at 3 o'clock in the night. So this is the extent they went to
Make
be
you feel
there for
protected,
yeah.
correct.
So to treat that insecurity. You obviously have apprehensions, right? That whether I should switch, whether I should exit the country, whether I should go to Europe, Australia, because
Right.
like so much effort we are putting in.
Like, is this profession even safe in the country?
Safe and worth it. Like if I'm putting so much effort and the way of me going somewhere is by licking someone's boots, that does not make a bit of sense, right?
Right.
Because all the
It hurts your dignity.
Yeah, it hurts my dignity and everyone's dignity. Because what happened is a person who has completed MBBS, who has completed MD, who is about to complete DM, if you elevate a doctor from a human to something near God, which many people do, I think there is the problem. Because
Doctor means God. It thinking.
and what people associate with God is God cannot fail, cannot make mistakes, right?
Welcome to another new episode of Student Voice Matters. This is your host, Sonalika Goswami. And today's episode is especially important because today we are going to address the concerns and pressure of a medical student in recent times. We will also talk about the extensive competition and preparation behind the NEET examination in order to score well in it. We have with us in discussion Rishi Basu, a third-year student at SSKM.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Sure. Pleasure to be here. Welcome.
So before this, you have done your microbiology. You have done an honors in microbiology before getting into medical. So as a student, what are the changes in the routine of your student life back when you were an honors student and now that you're into medical? What's the change in your routine as a student life?
See, there is a lot of change, okay. In Xavier's, when I used to study microbiology, the classes were there. I used to go to classes. Obviously, in first year, I went regularly to classes and obviously it declined with the second year and third year. But there was a catch. So in our exams, the semester exams, we had a gap of around 7-8 days in between each exam. So it always was in my mind that there are days where I can cover up even if I am not studying regularly. And
you can use the study leave.
Yeah, we can use the study leave. And if you start studying from around maybe 2 weeks before the examination, the syllabus is like that. You can complete the whole syllabus comfortably and you can, pass your exams in flying colors. So that is there. But in MBBS, the situation is very different. Okay. You have to do classes. That is always there. You have to do classes, practical classes you have to attend. Okay. Because if you do not address, if you do not attend the practical classes, there is no other way you can get exposed to the kind of things you need to get exposed
right.
to
You
be
miss,
a doctor.
You miss knowing things.
Yeah, because videos cannot help you doing a practical in being a doctor, right?
Bishon alada.
Completely different, because in videos you can learn the theory, but if you have to attend the practicals as much as possible. Number one, especially for the clinical subjects and where you have to actually see things and do things.
Right.
And classes are also important. Not specifically, you don't have to do all the classes, but classes are important. That aspect is that you have to know which classes you want to do. You have to understand from what classes you are getting the most amount of benefit from. Because, see, there are 3 kinds of classes you can go to see. One is you go there for attendance. There is no point going to those classes, right? The second one is that you go and you learn what are the important parts you need to learn for your examination. So that is also important, because that is also something you need.
Right.
And the third kind of classes you must attend is where you learn, you imbibe, so that when you look at the same chapter after 2 months, you do not have to learn it. You can just rebrush your own memory.
Achha.
So that is there. So these are the kind of classes there is in MBBS. And talking about studying, so the syllabus is like that. Say in Xavier's, the total syllabus of 3 to 4 semesters is equal to the syllabus of one professional examination. So the syllabus is huge. When I say huge, it is huge. When those who do not study MBBS, they cannot, fathom how big the syllabus actually is. Because when they say you have to study these big books, you don't have to study the whole book. But even if you have to study this much, that is solid text. Right? That is solid text. It's not like you can just go through the main points and do it. You have to understand, then you have to replicate in the exam. So you do have to study a lot. And in comparison, Xavier's was a cakewalk in my opinion.
So তুমি আগে microbiology করেছো and then you started with your medical. So did you always know that you were going to ultimately start, did you always know you were going to be a medical student?
No, absolutely not. Because when I passed my class 12 in 2017, I gave the NEET exam once, but NEET started in 2016, I feel, 16 or 15. So I was in West Bengal board, okay. And students of West Bengal board usually do not know anything about the NEET examination because it is completely based on a CBSE model. The books are of CBSE. Yeah. The pattern is of CBSE, and everything.
That's why when ICSE students, ISC students,
the conversion rate is not that good. So I just sat just for the fun of it. Okay, I sat for the joint, the engineering joint as well.
Okay.
JEE Mains, JEE Advanced, and also for NEET. But I did not study for the exam, right? I just gave the exam. Let's see what happens. Obviously, I did not crack it. So I was not really unhappy because I was not looking forward to joining medical, because there was a impression of medical in my mind that I have to study so much, I have to do so many things, and it will be very difficult. Okay, which actually is
too much. But
studying. At that time, it felt like I do not need that in my life. So
eto chap
nahi ki hobe. So I did not pursue that, and I filled up the form for Xavier's and a couple other colleges. But when I went to Xavier's for the admission, I loved it. So I loved the atmosphere. I loved the campus. I loved the professionalism and everything, and Xavier started slowly growing into me. And after that, I was like, there is no chance of me leaving this college. Okay, so even so I am staying here for 3 years, and then I'll see what I can do. Actually, the thought of joining medical came around second year, third year, because see, I loved biology as a kid. So when I loved biology, I read biology and microbiology. But what happened is, I did not necessarily prefer the research-oriented work, right? So I look at myself as a person who likes to work in the front line. So research is the back end. So back end is very important. But I felt that it is not for me. So I felt, what can I do? So then it struck me that, okay, I have done BSc. I'm going to do complete BSc in 1 year. So why not try medical? Because it's very similar to the subjects, and I'll also get to interact with a lot of people, which I really love. And also, if I want to go to research again, then I can go from being MBBS. I can easily go into biomedical research.
Correct.
But I wanted to do something which excited me. Microbiology, I loved reading microbiology. The subject was good, but it did not really excite me as a person. So if it does not excite me, I get bored of it. So if I'm getting bored of it now, I cannot do something which I'm getting bored of it right now for the rest of my life.
Correct.
So that is there. So that was the moment when I realized, okay, I need to switch.
So now that you're studying medical, is it aligning with your intentions? Is it exciting you?
Yeah, a lot. So there's a lot of challenge actually. Each day is like a challenge in the wards, and in the classroom as well. I'd say you end up learning new things 75% of the time. So that's a lot. Going to classes and even not going to classes, going through the materials and everything, if you end up learning 75% each time, I think it is worth it. And I feel that, see, there's one thing our professors do say every time that medical is like very, very practical oriented. Each word which is written in the textbook is actually applicable to a human being. Like there's nothing which you cannot feel that this is why am I studying this?
Right.
Why is it relevant?
This is completely about human body.
Yeah, you can. There are treatment guidelines. There are things which happen. There are things which you do not want to happen. Do not want that happening to anyone. So it's very, very close to reality. So you feel that touch, right? You feel that whatever you are learning is worthwhile. So that is a very important thing for me to feel happy as well. That this is a positive feedback cycle. That I am doing something, and I am doing something which is worthwhile, and I am getting a positive feedback when I am doing something positive. Like, see, I am not a doctor. Okay, I am a medical student. But even if I suggest some medicines to my friends, or maybe suggest a course of treatment, and somehow it turns out that I was right, so I get a huge positive feedback.
Right.
So that helps me to continue the struggle, because it's a lot of pressure. So you need to have some sort of a feedback mechanism that keeps you going.
So the field of medicine, medical technologies, they are all getting so advanced. So SSKM is definitely one of the most renowned institutes in the state. So is the practicals that you are attending, the facilities that you are getting, are those as upgraded?
In comparison to what?
In comparison, like you read about so many medical technologies upgrading themselves in that way.
I would say, see, when I have to judge a college by its facilities, I have to judge by the state average or the national average. Because international average I cannot compare.
Correct.
Because the funding, the atmosphere, the intent,
Not
everything
so
is
much.
different.
Yeah, different.
So if I compare to the state average, it's way beyond other colleges. If I compare to the national average, it is almost at par with the best institutes of the country. It is the best institute, I believe, in Eastern India. So even if people are, suffering from any complicated disease in Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, all of those are referred to SSKM because it is the nodal center.
Right.
And if you're talking about facilities, its trauma care center is unbelievable. Okay, because when I first went there, and I understood that you can actually treat patients. I have done sutures, on patients coming from road traffic accidents.
Right.
And we have a lot of equipments. There is no shortage of equipment. I don't want to name any college, but there are places where you do not even get a suturing kit. You do not get a normal saline on emergency.
Right.
But here there is a lot of abundance. There, government funding is also there. And at the same time, the intent of the people who are running the institution is very good. I would say it's a very productive way of doing things. And if you're talking about technology, all of the new kind of treatments like surgery, implants, like the transplantation, you see every other day SSKM is doing something new. So there is a new breast surgery technique which has been applied. There was a ear transplantation, I think, from rabbits, if I can recollect properly. So by innovation, it is really, really good, and the scope of learning is very good, because here, as a first year or a second year, you can even venture out to the trauma care center treatment room, and you can help out your seniors, the postgraduate residents, in doing things which are,
So you're getting hands-on experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And they make sure also we do not, make mistakes, because they give that buffer. So they make us do things according to our, skill level. So it's a very holistic experience, in my opinion.
You mentioned about your administration being very good. What has been happening in the last few months? How did that affect or impact your mindset as a medical student, or as a whole, with the classes and everything? How were you able to coordinate with your administration itself in these times?
So that was a chapter. That was something which nobody has seen. Even
nobody saw it coming.
It has never happened in the country, right? So it has bound to have some effects on each and every medical student there is, whether or not they take active participation in the protests. So as a medical student, first I would feel that it's a very sad incident which happened, and it's very, very unfortunate that what happened. I cannot
what someone
fathom
had to go through.
What someone had to go through and what led to it. Like the condition which facilitated this thing to happen, the kind of people who are in our profession, I don't know, the future. I just talked about the positive feedback mechanism, right? Where I feel good. This is a very negative feedback, right? Because if I feel that I'm studying so much, and what will I end up doing? I'll be working with these people, and so the situation is like that. If you are at a certain position, then you do have to, I do not want to say that, but have to work according to the whims of these people. At some point, people had to. I'm not saying I have to, but people had to. So that is really
face korte
absolutely. এবং যেটা ফেস করতে হয়েছে মানে বলে বোঝানো যাবে না what kind of trauma they had to go through. I'm not talking about the woman. I'm talking about each and every person associated with that institution and the things they had to go through. And as a medical student, you obviously have apprehensions, right? That whether I should switch, whether I should exit the country, whether I should go to Europe, Australia, because like so much effort we are putting in.
Like, is this profession even safe in the country?
Safe and worth it. Like, if I'm putting so much effort and the way of me going somewhere is by licking someone's boots, that does not make a bit of sense, right?
Right.
Because all the
it hurts your dignity.
Yeah, it hurts my dignity and everyone's dignity. Because what happened is, a person who has completed MBBS, who has completed MD, who is about to complete DM, and still is subjected to that kind of an atrocity, then we as an MBBS student are nowhere.
Right.
Anyways, the amount of monetary return you get is, I would not say bad, it's average in our country. If I take an average of the national average, but these kind of incidents really affect your positive positive mindset that I want to do something good. So that is what happened. And personally, we and all of my friends were involved in the protests. Okay, so we fought the atmosphere by in that way. Everyone has their own coping mechanism. We did that. Few people returned home from hostels and stayed with their families. Parents were worried, what is happening? And it was such a it was like a natural calamity which has hit the profession. Nobody
how
has
did
any
how did
clue.
the administration take part in it with you guys? SSK mein
Our administration.
Yeah, tomar administration.
So আমাদের administration was a standout administration. They were very cooperative throughout the whole process. Obviously, there has to be some frictions, right? But if I compare that with the students of other colleges, I would say that they were very, very supportive, and they made sure that we feel at ease. We do not feel insecure. That is a very important part of feeling insecure.
Right.
Every medical student over the last 3 months has felt a lot of insecurity. Insecurity of their profession, insecurity of their gender, and other things as well. So they made sure we do not feel that. And now our seniors, the PG residents who were leading the whole protest and with the administration, are working constructively towards a positive outcome. So I would say their response was really, really I really appreciate their response in the whole situation.
So classes and practicals, everything got affected. So how are you covering that up?
Thankfully, this year we have 2 subjects. Okay, forensic medicine and community medicine. Though for those 2 subjects, even if we did not do classes, we have figured out a way to recoup. So we are doing extra classes. We are doing, we are going to the professors and asking for help. There's no other way, and they are also helping us because they also know that it was a situation where we could not have done anything.
Right.
And since you mentioned about the administration, I would like to recall one incident. Okay, I think your audience also needs to hear this because there are still good people. So there was an incident which happened in Tala, right, the Ajikor, where the whole mob was there. So our students in our hostel felt very insecure. They were feeling that what if the same thing happens in our college? So in 1 hour, our director and our MSVP sir, they came down from their residence, from their home to our hostel and stayed for 3 to 4 hours at 3 o'clock in the night. So this is the extent they went to be there for us. Yeah.
Correct.
So to treat that insecurity. So that is one thing I really wanted to mention.
Yeah.
So it feels really good to be a part of the institution, and I feel that positive days are ahead.
So with the profession being as dignified as it is, the amount of people appearing for NEET is increasing every year. Like this year, the reports say that there have been over 23 lakh candidates that appeared for NEET.
23 lakhs.
Yes. So But not everyone can score it because seats to barche na, seats are still limited.
Yeah, almost.
Right.
The proportion at which the number of
Right. Very
it is not proportionate.
যতজন ইচ্ছা বসতে পারেন এটা তো না, that number is increasing infinitely.
Students বাড়ছে কিন্তু seats বাড়ছে
Seats বাড়ছে না. So what was the pressure like when you appeared for NEET? It was in 2021, I believe. So what was the pressure like? What was the competitiveness like? What you had to go through?
So if you are appearing for a NEET, which the conversion rate is really low, right? 40-50,000 government medical colleges from 23 lakhs is very, very less. So there is always a pressure. For myself, there was an added pressure that I did BSc, and now I have to do it because this is a conscious decision which I made for myself. It is a decision I made for myself that I want to do this. So if I was not able to do this, I did not think of anything as a backup option. So that pressure was that.
Because you were already out of the microbiology thing. Yeah.
So I think that thing worked as a fuel for me, that I don't have a backup, I have to do it. But in general, the pressure is really high, and see, I have a theory that pressure can do two things. One is it can push you to work harder, or you can make you crumble. So for me, it was like it pushed me to work harder. I obviously had moments of breakdowns because the syllabus is not huge, but the stakes are so high. Even one mark can take your rank down thousands.
Correct.
So you can see your college slipping, right? See, you have aimed for college A, you've made one mistake, you can see the college A is gone, B is gone, C is gone. So it's like that.
So the pressure is really intense.
But at the same time, I feel that it's not justified. Most students give that exam at 6, 17, 18-year-old age. I give at 21. But they give at 17, 18. And I think no student should be subjected to that kind of pressure at that age. It's really inhuman. The pressure that students go through is really, really hard. So it's there. The pressure is there, if you ask.
So, like some students, they have been trying for years. Like I know a friend who has been trying it for the last 8 years. One after another, and they don't even get into any proper degree in the meantime. They just try to get into maybe some XYZ college while giving the entire focus to preparing for NEET. So do you think it's worth the time spending 6-7 years of your life preparing for an examination? Now that you are a medical student, do you think that thing matches?
That's a difficult question, because see, one of my friends, he's my batchmate, and he cracked NEET after 5 attempts. Okay. So I did a degree in between. He did not do anything. So he was there studying, and he went to, I think, North Bengal Medical College and North Bengal Dental College 1 year, and then he gave NEET and came. So there are a lot of incidences, right, that people try for 5, 6, 7 years. If you ask me, is it worth it or not? For that, I have to talk a little bit about the NEET examination, right? Forgive me if I'm being too direct, but I feel that the NEET examination is a very overrated examination. It's for selecting doctors, right? People selecting students who can be future doctors. So what do you think an exam which should select the best doctors out of the mass of the students should have? What is the kind of examination you think the exam should be?
Oriented towards medical professions, like biological questions, maybe a little bit about ethics. I have no idea what a NEET exam looks like.
Okay, but you are on the right track. I feel that it should track a person's ability to, grasp knowledge and reproduce it and apply it. NEET exam is not at all about it. NEET exam is about, you read NCERT biology, part 1, part 2, you read NCERT physics, you read NCERT chemistry. You learn concepts of physics and chemistry. Physics you have to learn a bit because of the concepts. Chemistry you have to learn the physical chemistry and the organic chemistry. But after that, it's just mugging up the first word of the book to the last word of the book and reproducing in the examination in record time. So it's all about practice. Mugging up and practice. It does not test the ability of a student to understand concepts, to apply themselves.
Right. Because, human body is so complex and can do wonders. So
and you have to learn a lot, you have to feel a lot, you have to understand a lot.
Right.
Nothing is tested in the NEET examination, and the result of that is the kind of treatment people are getting in some cases.
True.
So it's there in our profession, and I feel the NEET examination has to take the blame for that. I am even, not even considering the paper leaks and everything. That was the hellhole.
Yeah.
But even if I'm talking about the NEET examination, people are studying for the exam.
Right.
They do not study the
For
subjects.
the profession.
Yeah, they do not study the subjects.
Yeah.
You have to study for the exam for the
They
NEET.
get in these institutes that prepare, the question module for them and
Yeah.
they practice it.
Yeah, that's a great business model. I'm
Yeah.
not criticizing the institutes,
Yeah,
but there is a market,
yeah,
right?
I mean, so many people are applying.
And there is a market of interested parents. Because NEET, you said, like, is it worth it or not? The student and the parents have to introspect that is it that the student wants to do it. I have come across a lot of students who sit for the NEET examination. They do not get through.
They don't even care.
They do not even care. But since their parents care, so they have to sit again.
That's a different kind of pressure.
Yeah. So you have to understand that 6 or 7 attempts you're talking about, is it because the person wants to become a doctor and become a doctor only and nothing else? Or is it because the student is feeling some sort of pressure that if I do not become a doctor, my parents would not accept me, my relatives would not accept me.
Right.
I have set this standard and I'm appearing for NEET.
Right.
So if there are people
এখন ডক্টর না হলে লোকে কি
হ্যাঁ
বলবে?
মানে NEET exam বসেছে মানে ডাক্তার হতেই হবে.
হতেই হবে.
So there is no other way around it.
I think it's very much prevalent in our state especially. নয় engineer হতে হবে না ডাক্তার হতে হবে. That is the only respected profession.
Engineer, doctor, উকিল. But I think the situation is changing. But of course,
But
a
like,
lot of people are still in that.
we have a long way to go.
Yeah. So if that 6 or 7 attempts is in the pursuit of being a great doctor, and that is the only way you think you can, be, do good to the society and feel complete, then you can give it a shot. But I feel that even if you have slightest doubt in your mind, leave it. Because it is not worth 7 years of your life. No exam is worth 7 years of your life. You can go for maximum 2 years, 3 years. After that, if you are not completely sure that I will not do anything else, then you can. It's a personal choice, but I feel that it's not worth it.
Worth it, correct.
Because, see, the friend which I talked about, who he used to stay there, where either I'll become a doctor অথবা আমি চপ ভাজবো. So it's very, it's very direct. So he could hold on.
So that was his ambition. Yeah.
So that is what. So it is worth it if you really feel like it. Otherwise, if you're doing it under some pressure, under some societal construct that I have to become this, my father is a doctor or my grandfather is a doctor, I have to become that, absolutely not worth it. Because you will not enjoy the course at all. It will make you feel miserable. It will make you crumble. And ultimately, I don't think you will end up becoming a good doctor. That is what I feel.
Right. You will not enjoy the profession. So you will not.
You have to.
Yeah. So you're a medical student now. There are definitely a lot of ethics that you have to get through, when you're being a doctor. There's this understanding of human emotions as well. But jeta hoye thake seta hocche when you're treating a patient and the results don't come out as desired, আজকাল লোক তেড়ে আসে ডাক্তারের উপর. So what is the concern there?
There is a big concern because we are humans. You said it's a dignified profession, right? But if you elevate a doctor from a human to something near God, which many people do, I think there is the problem. Because
doctor means God. It thinking.
And what people associate with God is God cannot fail, cannot make mistakes, right? I'm not saying. See, I'll just give an example. Let's say a patient has come and the treatment was at par with standard guidelines. We as doctors and MBBS students have to follow certain guidelines that if the patient's condition is A, B, C, you have to give treatment A, B, C. You have to follow that guideline. And with experience, you understand that if I switch from A to B, B to C, these are the cases I can switch. So with experience, that gets better. But there is a thing which is called personalized medicine, which is coming nowadays. The basis for that personalized medicine is that a human body does not react equally. All the human bodies do not react equally to equal treatment.
Correct.
If you apply the same treatment, does not mean A and
body
B will have the same
yeah.
reaction. So in that case, what can happen is things can get worse. Not in the doctor's hands. Case 2. The patient has been admitted late.
অনেক অবস্থা
হ্যাঁ মানে অলরেডি দ্য পেশেন্ট ইজ moribund. Like they are bound to die. So if in that time they have come to rush to the hospital and that's it, save my patient. That is the case 2. Case 3 is, I'm generalizing a lot because I'm shortening the whole thing. Case 3 is that there has been a mistake on the part of the doctor, which any human can make. In all these cases, 1 and 2, there is no justification that the patient can, be. Of course, they can be enraged, but they cannot act upon that anger.
Right.
When bridges fall, do you find who constructed the bridge and find that engineer and beat him? No, right.
You try to sort that situation in that moment. Yeah.
So when let's say a cargo ship is going, some cargo falls off. Do you go to the sailor and beat him up? No, right. So if there is some sort of a mistake, you cannot beat the doctor up. The stakes are so high, that is why things happen, right? Because people can die in this profession. Since people can die, the stakes are so high, but somewhere it is normalized that you can go and beat up a doctor. I've heard from my father and I've heard from my father that Moni Chetri used to have bodyguards in his chamber, and from that time, because he anticipated things like that can happen, so that's a lot of concern. And I feel now they teach us, like the curriculum teaches us something called ATCOM, Attitude, Ethics, Communication, and that is specifically for this, because on the part of the doctor, if I am able to communicate clearly to the patient that these things can happen, I feel that incidents will decrease.
Preparation.
One is enragement and another is acting upon that enragement. Something which bridges that is the communication from the doctor. If I as a doctor communicate to the patient party properly that this is the thing that has happened, we have tried our best, these are the course of actions, and this happened, so we could not save the patient, I think incidents can decrease, rather than going to the patient party and saying, we could not do anything. So I think the responsibility falls on both the doctor and the patient party to maintain that communication bridge, to bridge that gap, so that these kind of things do not happen. So I don't think it's just the patient party is to be blamed or the doctor.
But the level of communication that you can do in urban area is not the same as you can do in the rural area.
Absolutely.
Rural area, the enragement, the emotions are way too vulnerable.
Absolutely.
So does it scare you, to put it straight?
I haven't been posted to the rural side
like
right now, but thinking of it, it does not scare me, but I'm concerned because even if I can navigate some way, my batchmate may not. So it's like I feel that the amount of security that needs to be posted in these rural settings is a lot more, because the communication gap is not so easy to bridge. Right? They have dialects, they have their own way of understanding. So I think they need local security, like people who understand the local community and who will work in coordination with the doctors. There is no other way to do it, because people will get enraged. So you have to resist. You can try your best to communicate, you can try your best to treat. But if they are angry and an angry mob is rushing
towards you,
the only thing that can help is security. Legislation is always a necessity. I won't talk about it. People talk about it all the time. But I feel on-spot security is also something which can make sure people do not even try to attempt these things. So that is there.
So being into this profession takes a lot of responsibility, right? So huge responsibility. So does anywhere this sense of responsibility, you being able to cope up with this sense of responsibility, come along with the fact that you have been in sort of a leadership position back when you were doing honors? You were the General Secretary of St. Xavier Student Council. So the amount of responsibility you had to take in there, does it help you in some way to, prepare yourself for the responsibility you are about to take on?
So I feel that, there is no relation to obviously
I'm just talking about the sense of responsibility.
So there is no direct relation, but something which is taught again in our medical curriculum these days is leadership. They say that an Indian medical graduate is the leader of a team. You have to be a team leader. You have to coordinate with nurses, you have to coordinate with support staff, you have to coordinate with the patient's family, and you have to be this sort of a guiding light for the treatment to work, for the hospital to work. I think there is a mentality you have to build for that, and for that the experience I had at St. Xavier's College really helps me a lot, because I am comfortable around crowds, I'm comfortable around dealing with a lot of people, and I'm comfortable in tight spots where I have to think quickly and react. So that thing Xavier's and the Students' Council at St. Xavier's College has taught me, and I am grateful for that.
And why I brought this up is because there's also, those are completely two very different emotions, but there's also a very big emotion involved in the fact that a general secretary gets to conduct or basically host Zavotsav, which is again one of the greatest fest in the Eastern India region. So now, when you are organizing a fest like Zavotsav, you know that you have to anticipate around 60 to 70,000 crowd in total, right?
Yeah.
So, and these are young adults. 18 to 21, the most vulnerable crowd. They have a certain sort of expectation. Again, expectation is coming aligned. They have expectation, and if you're not bringing the correct artists, if you're not setting that benchmark for Zavotsav,
for the production, and
people will be angry. There are sponsors who will be angry, and you are the only person who they'll point fingers at, and who will be who has to give answers. Right, who will be answerable to all of them. So, does that emotion make you feel sort of like, oi jayega dariye? What was your feeling? And does that, did it prepare you again in a different mental strength?
That actually made me what I am. That phase where I had to organize Zavotsav, work with a wonderful team, bring the best out of my teammates, make a cohesive atmosphere, encourage juniors, work with them, overlook a team of around 300-400 students, and what you said, the expectations of the college, the expectations of the college students, expectation of the outside students, expectation of the sponsors. So I don't think you think a lot in these situations. You just let your instincts take over, and you just react to it, because it had been working for the last 2-3 months. Of the period leading up to Zavotsav is around 3 months. Okay. So you work hard in the first one, second one, third one is just go through it. You don't even, I don't remember at all what happened in each day. I don't even remember what I was doing during Zavotsav.
Right.
Because it was happening so fast that I could not register. I was just reacting to situations, right?
And not everyone can dare to take up, because this is a huge responsibility, right? So I remember I had a senior who was the class representative of my department, and I'll name him Ritam Mukherjee.
Ritam, huh?
Yeah. So he stood there, and there was a skyback stage, at the end. So he stood there, and this entire crowd, was dancing to the music, and he stood there, and I was like, oh, so next year, if you're the class representative again, you might get a chance to become. And he was like, I don't think I'll ever be able to put this, what Rishi Basu has done. I won't be able to bring this down. So I'm not at all going into that, because it is a huge responsibility, and I don't think anyone can even dare to dream. That takes a lot of guts.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility. But I feel that I was good as my team. I always give that credit, because if I did not have a great team, I alone could achieve nothing. Because I had a team, I managed my team managed their teams, the second years managed the first year.
Correct.
So it was a complete like a hierarchy in place. So if that system is not in place, it cannot work the way it did. And we ended up having a great event.
Event, correct.
So all those checkpoints have to be ticked, right? So it has to be correct at the root level, it has to be correct at the senior most level, it has to be correct with the cohesion with the administration, it has to be correct while booking the artists and all the other things that are involved. And I feel that তুমি যতটা বেশি ফোকাস করবে on like making the event successful, I don't think it will give the results. I feel that the most important thing that is required is that you feel each and every day should be productive in the build up towards the main event, right? You have to get something out of each day. One thing I learned is that planning, calendars, right?
Very important.
I had made a 6-month calendar after winning the elections, that what I'm going to do over these 6 months, and I used to manage the design team, the content team, the other teams accordingly. So you have to manage your time. Time management has been a great addition to my
Right.
skill set from Xavier's.
Right.
Time management, leadership, as you said, is always
Right.
there. You learn to how to deal with people, how to get the best out of people. That is the most important thing of leadership, I feel. To identify who can do which work and get the best out of that person. So these things molded, I think, my psychology in a certain way that whenever I am in tight spots, my instincts which have developed over
Through that
experience
yeah.
will kick in, and somehow I can come up with a
You
solution.
can get through it.
Yeah.
Right.
I cannot identify that this thing has directly helped me in this, but I know for a fact
The
that
skill sets that you have.
I know for a fact that the person I was before becoming a general secretary might not have been able to deal with these things in a certain way, the way I deal with them
Right.
now.
But sadly, and also like this is a thing for you, but you were the last person to host Zavotsav in the scale that Zavotsav would happen. After that, the lockdown started, and I don't think that Zavotsav has happened, but it hasn't happened in the full-fledged scale. 2020 was the last year we had Zavotsav at that scale. So, do you think it's unfortunate for the students that they're not able to witness or be a part of such huge curriculum outside of their studies?
I feel it is unfortunate, definitely. See, there are circumstances after the lockdown which happened because of which Zavotsav could not be escalated to that level, right? Even if the students tried, they could not. And there were certain roadblocks. I would not like to mention those roadblocks, but there were certain roadblocks which prevented the next batch to do it. I have witnessed the two Zavotsav after my Zavotsav. One is this, that they have had roadblocks which I did not have. Mainly not coming from the students. You can imagine what I'm talking about.
Right,
Yeah.
I get it, yeah.
The other part is, I feel that there is a general change in culture, student culture, right? So, there's one thing our parents used to say, that work but do not think of your returns, right? Nowadays, I feel most of the students, 99% of the students are very result oriented. They do not participate in events just for the sake of it. We used to do events just for the sake of it. I used to go to every society. I gave auditions for every society in my
Same.
first year. Okay,
Yeah.
Because
I
loved
was
it.
in every wing.
I loved it. Now students are very like, okay, this, if I go there, this can be added to my CV. If I do this can help me, in my academics.
Right.
So it's a very, very result
Self-oriented.
I'm not blaming the students because lockdown has done these things to people.
CV boost.
Yeah, everyone is like that. So if people are like that, it is difficult to rally 100, 200, 300 people to doing something where there is no assured return. Because at the start of Zavotsav, you do not know if the Zavotsav will have 50, 60 or 70 lakhs of budget.
Correct.
So you have to have a leap of faith. So if this kind of mindset kicks in, that I am very result oriented, and if I do not see benefit, I will not go there. It's difficult to rally a team to something which has no assured return. So these two factors have contributed, but I feel this year elections happened in St. Xavier's College again.
Yeah.
And I feel that again positive things are about to come.
But
because
you know why I say it's a little difficult? Because when you guys were organizing it, we were the juniors, and we saw how the thing was executed. But these juniors, because there's this gap, and the scale is not that huge, the juniors who have now become the seniors and about to organize, they do not have any experience. They have not witnessed a Zavotsav from inside of that scale.
that is where the seniors come in, right?
But again, those seniors itself have got no experience because
there is a catch. Actually, the team which organized Zavotsav after my Zavotsav, that is after lockdown, they were our juniors, like your seniors, when they were in college. So the masters group did the Zavotsav.
Right, correct.
So they do have a lot of experience. So that they gave that experience to their juniors. Obviously, since there is a break, the level will not remain the same because PG to UG, the jump is also there. The last 2 years, the people who led the Zavotsav, the individuals, they were all from postgraduate. This year, I feel again an undergraduate team is going to hold Zavotsav. So if an undergraduate team is going to hold Zavotsav, there has to be a communication between the previous organizing committees, and I feel their seniors will help them out. And I am optimistic. I have to be optimistic because, see, it's like a baby for me. Zavotsav was a baby for me, and there is nothing more I would wish than to see a Zavotsav which is which has
As grand.
surpassed
Correct.
our team.
Right.
The efforts which we put in.
You pictured paradise that year.
Picturing paradise. That was a theme.
Yeah.
And I would love nothing more to see a Zavotsav on a much more grander scale. Then I would feel, okay, I feel complete. So that is there.
Grander than paradise.
So that is there. But I feel that positive days are about to come.
So now that you're a medical student
Yeah.
and you have so much academic pressure, are you still in touch with your extracurriculars? Do you
Absolutely.
you-
That does not go out.
How do you balance it? And what do you
See,
do?
balance it in Xavier, it's a continuous process. You have clubs, you have this society, that society, Zavotsav. Here there is only one program, two programs actually, an academic program and a cultural program. And I was in the committee, and we were about to, organize something which no other college has done in Calcutta.
Okay.
And when I
In
say
SSKM.
no other medical college or non-medical college has done in Calcutta.
Like what you were about to do in SSKM.
Yeah, this year. But unfortunately, that did not happen because of the incident.
Correct.
So we were thinking of a huge budget. Okay, I cannot reveal that, but it is like 3-4 times of Xavier's budget, and we were about to do that, but that did not happen. So we have postponed it. That will happen, I think, in the month of February or March. The academic event will happen, Parisia, and the cultural event Crux. We are planning on how to execute that, but that cannot happen on the same scale because of the disruption. But we will do it, and that is the only thing. You reach in third year, you organize 2 events, and it's
So you're still as engaged in co-curriculars.
Yeah, I am engaged because that is what makes me feel alive. I cannot just do academics and go to college, study and come back. I have to do something. That is what
to make sure you're also going with on with your academics.
From school as well.
Yeah.
I always that's what makes me happy. Doing events and interacting with friends and doing things with them. That's a lot of, again, that positive feedback you're talking about. This is a great positive feedback.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and for your valuable insights and for sharing your experience.
I also had a great time.
Helpful.
Yeah, I met you after I think I last met you in 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
So 4 years
So
later.
4 years after that. It was a really great time.
Really.
And I really loved the conversation we had.
Same here. Thank you.
Welcome.